Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something right now. What do you really want? Not what you think you should want, not what society says you should want. What do you want deep down in your soul? Because here's the truth. Every single one of us has within us the ability to create, attract, and manifest a life that is beyond anything we've ever imagined. But most people never do it, not because it's impossible, but because they've convinced themselves it can't be done. The first step to manifesting anything you want is clarity. If you don't know exactly what you're aiming for, you'll never hit the target. Get precise. Get obsessed. Don't just say, I want more money. How much? By when? Why do you want it? What will it give you? Now listen carefully. Manifestation is not magic. It's alignment. It's when your vision, your emotions, and your actions all move in the same direction. That's when the universe, life, God, whatever you call it, starts opening doors for you. Step 2 emotion is the fuel. If you just write your goals down in a notebook, but you don't feel them with every cell of your body, you won't attract them. You've got to see it, hear it, taste it, smell it, live it in your mind as if it's already real. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what's vividly imagined and what's actually experienced. So condition yourself every single day to step into that reality. And then step 3, take massive, relentless action. Because here's the deal. You can sit and meditate on abundance all day long, but if you don't get up and do something about it, nothing's going to change. Action is what separates dreamers from doers. When you hold the vision, when you live in the emotion, and when you take action, no matter what, momentum builds. And momentum is power. That's when the opportunities, the people, the resources begin to flow. That's when you stop chasing and start attracting. So let me leave you with this. Don't settle for a life of maybe someday. Decide right now, in this moment, that you are worthy of the life you want. Decide that you're done playing small. Decide that from this day forward, you will manifest not just your goals, but your destiny, because you can, because you must, because the world is waiting for the person you're about to become. Now go out there and manifest anything you want. Clarity is power. Most people drift through life with a vague sense of what they want, hoping that something good will come their way, but never taking the time to define it in absolute detail. Imagine walking into a restaurant and telling the waiter, just bring me food. You would never do that. You would specify exactly what you want, how you want it prepared, and what side dishes to include. Yet in life, we often hand over our future to chance, being far less specific than we are when ordering a meal. Without clarity, your brain doesn't know what to focus on, your emotions don't know what to amplify, and your actions don't know what to pursue. Clarity begins with asking the right questions. What do you truly want in your career, your relationships, your health, your finances, your sense of purpose? Most people stop at surface level answers. They say they want more money, more success, or better health. But more is not clarity. If you find $1 on the sidewalk, technically you got more money. If you jog once around the block, technically you improved your health. Clarity forces you to move past generalities into precise detail. It makes you define not just the what, but the why and the how much. If you say you want financial freedom, what does that mean for you? Is it earning the $100 in a year or 10 million? Is it owning your home outright, or is it traveling the world without concern for expenses? Until you define it, your subconscious mind can't lock onto the target. When you're clear, something powerful happens in your nervous system. Your brain begins to filter the world differently. The reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters millions of bits of information every second, becomes your ally. If you've ever bought a new car and suddenly noticed that same model everywhere you go, you've experienced this filter. Those cars were always there, but your brain didn't register them until you gave it a reason to. The same thing happens when you gain clarity about your goals, though. Suddenly you start noticing opportunities, resources, and people that were invisible before, because now your mind has a clear directive on what matters. Clarity also creates intensity of focus. Think about a magnifying glass. When sunlight passes through it without focus, it warms the page slightly. But when you tilt it just right, the light converges into a single point, and suddenly the paper bursts into flames. That is the difference between a vague desire and a clear, defined goal. The energy is the same, but clarity concentrates it into something unstoppable. Without it, you're scattered. With it, you're unstoppable. People often confuse clarity with limitation. They fear that if they narrow down what they want, they'll miss out on other opportunities. But the truth is the opposite. When you don't choose, you're at the mercy of chance. When you choose clearly, you begin to create. It's like programming GPS in your car. If you don't enter a destination, you'll drive aimlessly, burning fuel, wasting time, and ending up somewhere random. But when you punch in an exact address, the system begins calculating the best route. That doesn't mean you can't make stops along the way or change your mind later, but at least you're moving with direction. Clarity is not a cage, it's a compass. Another key aspect of clarity is emotional intensity. It's not enough to simply write down what you want. You must associate it with a reason so powerful that it ignites your drive. If your goal is just words on paper, you won't follow through when challenges arise. But if your goal is infused with meaning, if it's tied to your deepest values and desires, it becomes non-negotiable. For example, wanting to lose weight to look good is vague and shallow, but deciding to lose 30 pounds so you can have the energy to play with your kids, to live long enough to see them grow, to set an example of health for your family, that creates clarity with emotional weight. That's the kind of clarity that fuels discipline and persistence. Clarity also demands honesty. Many people avoid getting clear because they fear the truth. They fear admitting what they truly want because it might feel too big, too audacious, or too different from the expectations of others. But if you're not willing to be brutally honest with yourself, you'll always live according to someone else's vision. True clarity requires courage. It requires silencing the voices of doubt and external judgment long enough to ask, if I could have anything, if I could create life on my terms, what would it look like? And then writing that answer down without editing, without shrinking it, without filtering it through the lens of realism. Once you begin to articulate your vision, clarity becomes a tool of alignment. When you know exactly what you want, you can reverse engineer the steps to get there. If your target is vague, your actions will be scattered. But when your goal is specific, your plan can be strategic. Say your dream is to run a marathon. That's not just a fantasy. It's a clear, measurable outcome. With clarity, you can map out a training schedule, adjust your diet, track your progress, and eventually cross the finish line. Without clarity, you just try to get in shape and wonder why you're not moving forward. Clarity also accelerates decision making. Life constantly forces us to choose where to spend our time, energy, and resources. Without clarity, every option feels tempting, and you end up stuck in indecision or chasing distractions. With clarity, choices become simple. You measure every decision against your ultimate vision. Does this action move me closer to my outcome or further away? If it aligns, you do it. If it doesn't, you cut it out. Suddenly, your life begins to simplify. Stress diminishes. Progress accelerates. Clarity is not a one-time event. It's a practice. What you want evolves as you grow, as your circumstances change, as your sense of purpose deepens. That's why it's essential to revisit your goals regularly, to refine them, to sharpen them, to make sure they still resonate with the person you're becoming. Think of clarity like tuning a guitar. If you don't tune it, the sound becomes distorted over time. But when you check it consistently, the music flows effortlessly. In the same way, your vision must be tuned so that your actions and energy stay in harmony with your true desires. And clarity doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. When you're clear, people can feel it. They sense the certainty in your voice, the conviction in your actions. They want to follow someone who knows where they're going. Leaders are not the ones with all the answers. They're the ones with clarity of direction. When you radiate clarity, you inspire trust, and that trust attracts allies, collaborators, and opportunities. Emotion fuels manifestation. It is the spark that turns a thought into something alive, something magnetic. You can have the clearest, most precise vision written down in perfect detail, but without emotion, it remains just ink on paper. Human beings don't move because of logic alone. They move because of feeling. It's emotion that creates intensity, emotion that ignites persistence, emotion that sustains action long after willpower runs out. The truth is your nervous system doesn't respond to vague ideas. It responds to the emotions those ideas generate. When you feel something deeply, your physiology changes, your energy changes, your entire present changes. Think about the times in your life when you've accomplished something that once seemed impossible. It wasn't simply because you had a well-structured plan. It was because you were emotionally charged. You felt something so strongly that you refused to let it go. You might have been moved by love, by hunger, by determination, by the refusal to let yourself or others down. That emotional intensity pushed you through obstacles that would have stopped you otherwise. Manifestation requires that same emotional fuel. If you only think about what you want without cultivating the emotions tied to it, you will remain stuck in the land of wishful thinking. The subconscious mind doesn't operate in words or numbers. It operates in images and feelings. When you vividly imagine what you desire and immerse yourself in the emotional experience of already having it, your subconscious begins to accept it as real. The brain does not distinguish powerfully imagined experiences from physical reality. Athletes have used this principle for decades. Olympians visualize crossing the finish line, feeling the medal around their neck, hearing the crowd roar. They don't just see the outcome, they feel it with such intensity that their body rehearses success before it even happens. That rehearsal wires the nervous system to attract and create the very reality they envision. Emotion magnifies focus. Picture yourself setting a goal with no feeling attached. It sits there like a flat piece of paper, easily forgotten, easily ignored. But when you attach excitement, joy, gratitude, hunger, and certainty to that goal, it becomes magnetic. Your mind keeps returning to it. Your body feels drawn to it. That emotional charge is what makes you wake up earlier, stay up later, push harder, and keep going when the road gets rough. Without it, the vision fades. With it, the vision expands. Most people fail to manifest what they want because they only engage the intellect. They say affirmations, they write lists, but they don't create the state of emotion that convinces their system it's already real. They speak words without passion, and words without passion are hollow. It's not enough to say, I am abundant, in a monotone voice while feeling broke and desperate inside. That contradiction keeps you stuck. You have to feel abundance before it shows up. You have to feel love before the relationship appears. You have to feel vitality before the health transformation occurs. The external is always a reflection of the internal, and the internal is driven by emotion. One of the fastest ways to harness emotion is through physiology. Try feeling unstoppable while slouching, breathing shallowly, and speaking in a weak tone. It's nearly impossible. Now stand tall, breathe deeply, move with certainty, and speak with conviction. Instantly you feel different. That shift in physiology generates emotion, and that emotion fuels your focus. Emotion is not something you passively wait for. It's something you create. You can condition it daily by moving your body, speaking your vision out loud with intensity, visualizing your desired outcome while flooding yourself with gratitude as if it's already yours. This repeated conditioning carves a groove into your nervous system that becomes difficult to shake. Gratitude is one of the most powerful emotions in the process of manifestation. When you feel grateful for something as if it has already happened, you send a signal to your mind and body that the outcome is real and present. Gratitude eliminates fear and scarcity. You cannot simultaneously feel deep gratitude and deep lack. By choosing gratitude as a daily emotional practice, you align yourself with abundance. You stop chasing outcomes in desperation and instead attract them through alignment. Gratitude makes your vision feel inevitable. Another key emotion in manifestation is certainty. People often wait until they see evidence before they allow themselves to feel confident. But manifestation requires the opposite. You must feel certainty before the evidence shows up. Certainty creates a resonance that pulls the outcome toward you. It doesn't mean you know every detail of how it will happen. It means you trust deeply that it will. That emotional trust opens your creativity, sharpens your focus, and allows you to see pathways you would otherwise miss. Doubt blinds you, certainty illuminates. Emotions also shape the quality of the action you take. Two people can take the exact same step toward their goal, but if one takes it with fear and hesitation, while the other takes it with confidence and passion, the results will be dramatically different. Emotion gives power to action. It determines whether you make the phone call with conviction or uncertainty, whether you enter the meeting radiating confidence or shrinking in doubt, whether you show up with presence or distraction. Manifestation doesn't just depend on the quantity of your actions, but on the emotional quality behind them. If you look at people who create extraordinary results in any field, you will notice they all generate powerful emotions before and during their pursuit. Entrepreneurs who build empires do not simply analyze numbers, they cultivate passion and belief so intense that investors, employees, and customers feel it. Artists who move the world don't just paint or sing or write, they pour raw emotion into their work until it vibrates in others. Leaders who transform nations don't just make speeches, they ignite emotions in their people that awaken courage and unity. The common denominator is always emotion. It's important to recognize that emotion can either accelerate or sabotage manifestation. Fear, doubt, and resentment can be just as magnetic as joy, certainty, and gratitude. If you repeatedly dwell in fear of what might go wrong, you manifest circumstances that reinforce that fear. If you obsess over what you lack, you attract more lack. This is why emotional discipline is critical. You must become aware of the emotions you habitually live in and consciously shift into states that support your vision. It's not about denying reality. It's about refusing to let disempowering emotions dominate your inner world. To truly harness emotion, you must practice feeling the outcome daily with intensity. Imagine the exact moment your goal is realized. See it in your mind, but more importantly, feel it in your body. Feel the pride, the excitement, the relief, the joy. Let it flood your nervous system until it feels undeniable. Do this consistently, and you rewire yourself to expect success rather than hope for it. That expectation is the emotional force that makes manifestation inevitable. Belief creates alignment. Every result you manifest begins with a belief system that either empowers you or holds you back. You can set goals, create plans, and take action, but if deep down you do not believe you are capable, worthy, or deserving, then you sabotage yourself before you even begin. Belief is the foundation because it governs how you interpret reality, how you respond to challenges, and how much of your potential you allow yourself to access. Human beings don't act on what is true, they act on what they believe is true. If you believe you can do something, you will search for strategies, persist through obstacles, and find a way. If you believe it's impossible, you won't even start or you'll quit at the first setback. Belief is the invisible script that shapes every visible action. Alignment happens when your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions are in harmony with what you want to manifest. Belief is what connects them. If your conscious mind says, I want success, but your subconscious believes, I am not good enough, you are in conflict. That conflict creates hesitation, procrastination, and self-sabotage. On the outside, it looks like laziness or distraction, but on the inside, it's a lack of alignment between belief and desire. To manifest anything, your belief must support your vision. When you truly believe in the possibility, your emotions ignite with excitement and your actions flow naturally. There is no resistance, only momentum. Beliefs are powerful because they are self-fulfilling. If you believe the world is full of opportunities, you notice them everywhere. If you believe the world is hostile and limited, you notice obstacles and reasons to hold back. Your brain seeks evidence to confirm your dominant beliefs. That's why two people can face the same circumstance and have completely different outcomes. One sees a dead end, the other sees an opening. The difference is not in the situation, but in the belief that interprets it. Beliefs are not facts, they are learned. From childhood, you absorb beliefs from parents, teachers, peers, and culture. Many of those beliefs go unquestioned for years. If you grew up hearing, money is hard to make, you may carry that belief into adulthood, unconsciously limiting your financial potential. If you heard, you're not smart enough, you may hesitate to pursue education or career opportunities. The good news is beliefs are not permanent. They can be examined, challenged, and replaced. The moment you recognize that a belief is just a pattern of thought you've repeated enough times to accept as truth, you gain the power to change it. Shifting belief requires 2 steps: interrupting the old pattern and conditioning the new one. The first step is awareness. You must notice the limiting belief and how it plays out in your life. Maybe you catch yourself thinking, I'll never be able to do that, or I'm just not that type of person. Instead of accepting it, pause and question it. Where did that belief come from? Who taught me this? Is it absolutely true? Often you'll find it's not a fact, but a story you've been carrying. Once you expose it, you weaken its hold. The second step is to condition a new empowering belief. Simply telling yourself once that you're capable is not enough. Belief is built through repetition and emotional reinforcement. You must repeatedly declare the new belief, visualize it, feel it, and act as if it's already true. For example, if you want to manifest abundance, but have carried a belief of scarcity, you must condition yourself daily to believe that opportunities are everywhere, that money flows to you, that you are worthy of receiving it. The more you reinforce it with emotion and evidence, the stronger the belief becomes until it replaces the old one. Belief is also strengthened through action. When you take even small steps toward your goal and succeed, you create reference experiences that confirm the belief. Confidence is not born from sitting around telling yourself you can do something. It comes from proving to yourself that you can. Every little win builds momentum. Every action aligned with your vision reinforces the belief that you are capable and deserving. That's why action is not just a result of belief, it's also the builder of belief. The more aligned actions you take, the deeper the belief is etched into your identity. There is also a collective dimension to belief. When you surround yourself with people who believe in you, who reinforce your potential, it amplifies your own belief. Conversely, if you surround yourself with people who doubt, criticize, or diminish your dreams, their disbelief infects your mindset. The environment you choose is either fertilizer or poison for your belief system. To align with your vision, you must curate an environment of belief, books, mentors, peers, experiences that constantly remind you of what's possible. Belief shapes identity. The strongest force in the human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. If you believe you are a person who is disciplined, resourceful, and resilient, you will behave in alignment with that identity even when it's hard. If you believe you are a person who always fails, who is unlucky, who can't change, you will unconsciously act in ways that reinforce that identity. Identity-level beliefs are the most powerful because they don't just describe what you can do, they describe who you are. The moment you shift your belief about who you are, everything else begins to align. Belief is also the antidote to fear. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but belief creates certainty. When you believe deeply in your vision, fear may still appear, but it no longer controls you. The belief is stronger than the fear. That's why people with unshakable belief often accomplish things that others call impossible. They are not without fear, but their belief aligns them so powerfully that fear becomes background noise instead of a barrier. To manifest anything, your belief must be congruent with your desire. If you say you want love but believe all relationships end in pain, you will unconsciously sabotage intimacy. If you say you want success but believe wealth corrupts people, you will push away opportunities. If you say you want health but believe your body is broken beyond repair, you will resist habits that could transform you. The outer result always matches the inner belief. That's why belief is alignment. Massive action turns vision into reality. A dream without action is just imagination. But when you attach relentless execution to a clear and emotionally charged vision, it begins to take physical form. Too many people spend their lives in planning mode, perfecting their ideas, waiting for the perfect time, waiting for all conditions to align before they move. But perfection never comes, and the truth is clarity without execution is paralysis. You manifest by moving, by testing, by creating momentum through action. Even imperfect steps forward generate feedback, and that feedback becomes the raw material for success. Massive action is not about doing one thing and hoping it works. It's about committing fully, going all in, and refusing to stop at the first obstacle. When you take massive action, you eliminate hesitation. You train your nervous system to respond decisively instead of analyzing endlessly. You build momentum because every step, no matter how small, compounds into something bigger. The law of inertia applies to life. Objects in motion stay in motion. The hardest part is starting, but once you move, energy builds, and opportunities reveal themselves that were invisible before. Most people underestimate what consistent, relentless action can create. They think in terms of single moves, one phone call, one meeting, one idea. But when you stack massive action, the sheer volume and intensity create breakthroughs. Imagine pushing a boulder up a hill. At first it feels impossible. Every ounce of strength is required just to move it an inch. But as you keep pushing, momentum builds, and eventually the boulder starts rolling on its own. Massive action creates that tipping point in life. You may feel resistance at first, but sustained effort transforms resistance into acceleration. Taking massive action also breaks the pattern of fear. Fear thrives in stillness and overthinking, in dwelling on what could go wrong. The moment you act, you disrupt fear's grip. Fear cannot survive in the presence of decisive movement. You may not eliminate it completely, but by taking action, you shift your focus from what you fear to what you can control. Action builds confidence, and confidence fuels further action. This cycle expands your sense of possibility, making goals that once felt unreachable start to feel inevitable. Massive action is not about reckless activity. It's about intelligent persistence. It means testing, adjusting, and trying multiple strategies until something works. If one approach fails, you don't retreat, you pivot. If a door closes, you look for a window, and if no window exists, you build a new door. Relentless action is the mindset of refusing to accept defeat, refusing to be stopped by setbacks. Every failure becomes feedback, every rejection becomes redirection, and every obstacle becomes a teacher. Those who manifest extraordinary lives are not the ones who never fail, but the ones who act massively enough that failure becomes just another step forward. When you take massive action, you separate yourself from the majority. Most people dabble. They say they want success, but only put in minimal effort. They dip their toe in, but they never dive all the way. Massive action is diving headfirst, committing with energy so intense that people around you feel it. That level of commitment attracts resources and allies. People are drawn to those who are fully in motion because it signals certainty. When others see you moving with urgency and persistence, they want to be part of it. They want to help. They want to contribute. Massive action becomes magnetic. It also shortens the timeline of your results. A goal that might take 5 years with average effort could take 1 year with massive action. The speed at which you achieve depends not only on strategy, but on the volume of action you apply. Think of it like compound interest. Small deposits over time eventually grow, but a massive investment accelerates the outcome dramatically. When you flood your vision with action, you compress time, turning long-term dreams into near-term reality. Massive action also expands your capacity. You discover what you're truly capable of when you push beyond what feels comfortable. Comfort breeds stagnation, but massive action forces growth. You learn faster because you expose yourself to more experiences. You develop resilience because you encounter and overcome more challenges. You increase creativity because taking bold action often requires new solutions. The very act of moving massively evolves you into the person capable of handling the vision you set out to manifest. A key element of massive action is consistency. A single burst of effort will not change your life, but sustained, repeated action over time will. Consistency builds habits, and habits shape destiny. When you commit to daily, massive effort, you no longer rely on willpower alone. The routine carries you, the habit sustains you. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes automatic because you conditioned yourself through repetition. Massive action also eliminates the illusion of waiting. Many people wait for motivation before they act, but motivation often follows action, not the other way around. The act of doing generates energy. It creates progress, and progress itself is motivating. The faster you move, the more momentum you build, and the less you rely on fleeting emotions to keep going. You act not because you always feel like it, but because massive action becomes your standard. Taking massive action does not mean burning yourself out. It means moving with urgency, resourcefulness, and commitment. It means doing whatever it takes while maintaining the awareness that rest and recovery are part of the process. True massive action is sustainable because it is fueled by a vision that excites you and an emotional drive that sustains you. It is not about exhausting yourself. It's about aligning your energy so powerfully that action becomes natural and inevitable. Massive action is also about eliminating distractions. You cannot move massively toward one vision while scattering your energy in a dozen directions. Focus amplifies the effect of your effort. When you decide on your outcome and channel massive action into it, you cut through noise and concentrate your resources. This focused intensity multiplies results. It is the difference between a light bulb that diffuses energy in all directions and a laser that concentrates energy so intensely it cuts through steel. Massive action makes you into that laser. Ultimately, massive action turns possibility into probability and probability into certainty. It bridges the gap between dreaming and achieving, between wanting and having. It transforms thought into matter by creating the physical steps, the visible proof, the undeniable momentum that manifests your vision into reality. Momentum attracts abundance. Momentum is the invisible force that multiplies your efforts, accelerates your progress, and draws opportunities toward you. When you are moving consistently in the direction of your goals, life seems to open doors for you that were previously hidden. People call it luck, they call it coincidence, but in reality, it is momentum. The moment you start stacking effort upon effort, action upon action, you generate energy that compounds. That compounding energy begins to pull resources, relationships, and breakthroughs into your orbit. Abundance does not flow to stagnation, it flows to movement. And momentum is movement sustained and magnified. Momentum begins with small steps, but those steps must be consistent. At first, progress may feel slow, like trying to push a heavy train from a standstill. It creaks, it groans, it barely moves. But once you keep pushing, once the wheels begin to turn, something shifts. Each push becomes easier because the energy is compounding. Soon the train is moving with such speed that stopping it becomes almost impossible. That is the power of momentum in life. Every time you take aligned action toward your vision, you are adding to the force that drives you forward. The beauty of momentum is that it doesn't just carry you, it begins to attract. When people see someone in motion, fully engaged, fully committed, they are drawn in. They want to be part of that energy. They offer help. They present opportunities. They introduce connections. Momentum creates visibility because action makes you noticeable. You cannot hide when you are moving at full speed. Others feel the pull of your drive and abundance responds. Momentum also creates psychological certainty. When you take one step and then stop, doubt creeps in. But when you take 10 steps, 20 steps, 50 steps, doubt has less room to grow. Confidence builds because progress is visible. You look back and see how far you've come, and that proof fuels the belief that you can go even further. This self-reinforcing loop of action, progress, and belief is the essence of momentum. The more you move, the more certain you feel. The more certain you feel, the more you move. Abundance flows most easily when you are operating inside that cycle. Momentum thrives on consistency. Sporadic effort does not generate the same power. A few days of intensity followed by weeks of inactivity stalls progress. But steady, repeated action builds momentum like compounding interest in a bank account. Each deposit of effort grows larger because it builds on the ones before it. Even small daily actions, when stacked over time, generate enormous results. Consistency turns ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes because momentum multiplies the impact. Momentum also reduces resistance. At the beginning of any new pursuit, resistance feels heavy. Every step takes effort. But once you create momentum, resistance weakens. It's like riding a bicycle uphill. Hard at first, but once you reach the top and begin coasting downhill, the bike practically rides itself. Momentum creates the downhill effect in life. Instead of every action feeling forced, actions begin to flow naturally. You get into rhythm, into state, into a groove where what once felt difficult becomes automatic. One of the greatest advantages of momentum is that it attracts synchronicity. The right people seem to appear at the right time, the right ideas come to mind, the right opportunities show up unexpectedly. This isn't magic, it's the natural effect of movement. When you are stagnant, your world remains small. When you are in motion, you intersect with more possibilities. The sheer act of moving expands your exposure, and that expansion multiplies opportunities. Abundance flows because you are in the path of it, and momentum keeps you there. Momentum also amplifies identity. The more you act in alignment with your vision, the more you begin to see yourself as the type of person who achieves. Identity is shaped by repeated actions, and momentum accelerates those repetitions. If you consistently show up, consistently follow through, consistently push forward, you internalize the belief that you are disciplined, resourceful, and unstoppable. That identity then fuels more action, which fuels more momentum, creating a cycle that draws abundance naturally. Abundance is not only material wealth, it is also growth, relationships, opportunities, health, and fulfillment. Momentum influences all of these. When you build momentum in your fitness, your energy attracts people to you and opens doors socially and professionally. When you build momentum in your career, opportunities and resources gather around you. When you build momentum in your relationships, trust deepens and connections expand. Momentum multiplies abundance across every area because it is not isolated, it is contagious. Energy in one domain spills into others. To maintain momentum, you must guard against the trap of stopping once you see initial success. Many people push hard, generate progress, and then relax too early. They lose the very force that was carrying them. Momentum must be sustained even after the first results arrive. Think of an airplane taking off. Tremendous energy is required to lift it from the runway, but once it is in the air, it still requires consistent thrust to keep flying. If the engines are cut too soon, it will fall. The same is true in life. Sustaining momentum ensures abundance continues to flow. Momentum also requires course correction. Being in motion doesn't mean blindly charging ahead without reflection. It means adjusting as you go while maintaining forward energy. A ship at sea doesn't sit still to recalculate its path. It keeps moving while steering slightly left or right. In the same way, you can refine your strategy, pivot your actions, and still maintain momentum. This adaptability ensures you stay aligned with your vision while keeping abundance flowing. Momentum is fueled not only by action, but also by state of mind. Excitement, gratitude, and certainty accelerate momentum, while doubt, fear, and complacency slow it down. Cultivating empowering emotions daily adds fuel to the engine. When you wake up energized, visualize your outcomes, and step into gratitude, you create an internal state that propels you forward. That state then influences your behavior, and your behavior continues the cycle of momentum. The compounding effect of momentum eventually creates a tipping point. In the beginning, results may be small and barely noticeable. But as momentum builds, results start arriving faster and in greater quantity. What once took enormous effort becomes effortless. What once felt far away suddenly appears within reach. Abundance doesn't trickle in slowly forever. It often arrives in waves once momentum crosses a threshold. The key is staying consistent long enough for that threshold to be reached. Momentum attracts abundance because it demonstrates to life, to others, and to yourself that you are serious. You are no longer dabbling, no longer waiting, no longer hoping. You are moving, and movement creates magnetism. It tells the world you are ready, it signals your commitment, and it generates the energy that abundance responds to